The best episode of The Acolyte to date has just dropped with episode 5, which brought with it a ton of reveals, but also a ton of questions.
What master hides his face from his pupil?
And now it's time to break it all down. Episode 5 has given us the best lightsaber fight since the prequels. And a lot of Jedi deaths. So pick up your Sith helmets and prepare for battle, and trust me when I say we've got a lot to get into. And I've also got a few early theories on the direction the show's going in next.
Where is she?
Who?
You know the drill. Remember to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to catch more of our Star Wars videos. Now with all that out of the way, let's get into The Acolyte episode 5. Okay, so we pick up right where we left off in episode 4 with Osha waking up from being thrown by the Master on Kofar, not far from Kelnucker's home. He finds Pip nearby and heads towards the distant sound of clashing lightsabers, falling over the body of a Jedi on the way, which shows us immediately that the Master's not there to mess around, and that, like Osha, we've missed some of the action. The Jedi are engaged in an intense battle with the Master in what turns out to be a Jedi bloodbath of an episode. Yord does step in to play his part, but is quickly injured. The mysterious masked menace has excellent use of the Force and is very proficient with a lightsaber. He's pretty much already killed most of the Jedi on Kofar, apart from your main ones that we've seen throughout the show. However, that's all about to change. You'll notice here why the Jedi's lightsaber keeps short-circuiting. That's because the Master's headbutting him using his helmet. So I think the helmet's actually made out of cortosis, which is a metal that's able to withstand lightsaber strikes for a time, whilst also being able to short-circuit them as well. Now, interestingly, this could also tell us more about the Master and the Sith of this time too. In Legends, Darth Tenebrous, who would likely be the big Sith Lord during the time of the Acolyte, was known to mine cortosis himself, and that's something that wasn't actually continued by his apprentice, Darth Plagueis. So, if May's master is actually a Sith apprentice to Darth Tenebrous, that would explain why his helmet's made out of cortosis. And let's just be real here for a moment. Hasn't this Sith literally got himself all of the in-app purchases with these accessories? As the Master's attentions turn to Yord, Osha uses her blaster to stun him, however it has no effect. Cortosis doesn't just short-circuit lightsabers, it's able to absorb energy. In Legends, they use it on some of the ships and battle droids as well. Now, although Osha's attack didn't harm the Master in any way, it did succeed in turning his attentions away from Yord and onto the twin, which I think is a little bit odd. Why was he so interested in capturing Osha that he left Yord alive when he could have killed him there and then? Now, up until now, May's still been inside Kelnucker's place watching everything unfold from the window. The Master chases Osha and May, deciding enough is enough, picks up Kelnucker's lightsaber that's on the ground with the intention, I think, to save Osha. Now, the Master almost beheads her, but Sol saves her life again. So now we've got Sol, Osha and Yord facing off against the Master, but Sol doesn't want her in this fight, force pushing her back towards Yord, who he directs to take the civilian back to the ship, which as a Jedi Master, that would be the right call. Yeah, Osha was a Jedi once, but she hasn't trained in years and her abilities are only slowly starting to return. Now, we see the mysterious Master taunt Sol, giving off the impression that he knows him, and Sol admits that he can sense something familiar, not being able to put his finger exactly on what though. Now, of course, this could be the identity of the character behind the mask, but it could also be the presence of the Sith in general back on Brendok, as I really do believe they were there back then as well, possibly learning new dark side abilities from the Coven, which would then go on to influence Plagueis to attempt to create life by manipulating the midichlorians one day. Now, back with May, and she's rushing out of Kelnucker's. However, Jackie spots her and confronts her, attempting an arrest. She almost pulls it off too, however May just about manages to escape. They both fight, and it's pretty telling where May is in terms of her fighting ability. Jackie's still a Padawan and is putting up one hell of a fight. The real power of the dark side in this show certainly sits with the Master. The Sol demands the Master reveal his face, to which the Master replied by saying,
"And let you read my thoughts."
Now, where have we heard that before? So Sol continues to jab at the Master, asking him what kind of Master hides his face from his pupil, where the Sith responds with, "You tell me," which implies that although Sol doesn't wear a physical mask, he's still very much wearing one, hiding his true self, his darker self. So as Osha and Yord are making their way back to the ship, Osha asks him what is that thing they've encountered, to which Yord has no idea. He doesn't follow the rules of combat, whilst he also has the ability to get into your head and stay there. Now, interestingly, Osha responds by reminding us that her mother had the ability to do that as well. Now, I've never been subscribed to the idea of the Master being one of the mothers, but I do believe the Sith picked up some dark powers from the witches on Brendok, and this wouldn't be the first time the Sith have looked at other dark side Force groups for knowledge. Palpatine's also known to have looked at the Night Sisters for knowledge too. Now, as Jecki finally manages to get May into handcuffs, the Master attacks and tells May that she can learn something from this Padawan. She's a loyal pupil, unlike May. So Jecki and the Master fight, where we see the cortosis cause her lightsaber to short circuit for a moment again. So she draws for Kelnucker's lightsaber that's nearby on the ground, and then her own once it comes back around to fight with both. And she really does smash it with great form. However, in the midst of all the action, May senses an opportunity to escape, running off into the forest. So the Master chooses to pursue her rather than kill Jecki there and then. Similar situation to what we just saw a moment ago, where he left Yor to chase Osha. Now, I think he really wants both twins here, but there's also an element of May betraying him as well, and the knowledge that she possesses is probably more damning to the Sith if it got out and in the hands of the Jedi, than the testimony of a few Jedi that encountered someone in the forest. Now, interestingly, whilst he's pursuing May, he's also actually trying to kill her, calling her a coward for betraying him, telling her she's always been weak, which is something we've come to see more and more as the season progresses. May's pleading for forgiveness from the Master, and while it looks like she has it momentarily, when he cuts her free of the handcuffs, he quickly attempts to kill her again, but Sol manages to drag him back before he's able to. Then Sol and Jecki engage him one more time. Now, walking through the forest back to the ship, around the area where the Umbra Moth creatures are, Osha hears a young May voice in her head again. Like the vision we had in episode 1, she realises they need to go back, believing everyone will die if they don't, and Yord hesitantly agrees. Now, because these creatures are drawn to light, she uses her torch to attract them, hoping they'll follow her back to the fight and break it up and potentially attack the Master. Now, Jecki manages to cut off the Master's helmet, however, before we get to see his face, he pulls his lightsaber into two, revealing two red blades. He's used one to block Jecki's attack and the other one to stab her 3 times through the chest, killing her instantly, and then we get the big reveal that the Master is actually Qimir. And I've been saying this in videos for a while, but I actually first predicted it way back before the first episode premiered. I just wanted to put that out there. So Sol calls out to her as she falls to the floor, before Qimir point scores a little here by saying,
Was that its name?
and I think he said this because Jecki dehumanized him earlier by saying,
What is that?
Sol says she was the child, to which Qimir coldly responds by saying, you brought her here. So I think Jecki's death will lie heavily on Sol's conscience going forwards now. The Qimir has May held hostage, pointing his saber at her head. Sol asks him what he is, and Qimir replies by saying he doesn't have a name, but the Jedi might call him a Sith. Now, I think Qimir is actually a Sith, but it's worth noting he hasn't actually called himself one. He just said that's what the Jedi would likely call him, whereas Palpatine called himself a Sith, and even his Master Plagueis one as well. So whilst Qimir's holding May hostage, an enraged Sol goes in for the attack, and at this point Qimir's back's pretty much turned. He's not paying too much attention. So Qimir reminds him that this isn't the Jedi way. Sol then asks him why would he risk discovery, and we get a similar perspective to the witches on Brendok of the state of the galaxy under the Jedi, with Qimir saying he wants freedom. He wants to be able to wield his power as he likes without answering to the Jedi Order, and he wanted a pupil to pass these teachings on to an acolyte. But she broke the rules, he's been exposed, and as he can't exist in the eyes of the Jedi, he'd have to kill everyone there that knows the truth. So at this moment, Osha and Yord do make it back to the others. Qimir quickly kills Yord by snapping his neck. So that's 2 big characters that have been ever present in the story so far, now dead in episode 5. Taking the opportunity to again, May tries to run into the forest. However, Osha stuns her, making sure to not miss this time around. But seeing Jecki die, and now Yord brings out a darker side to Sol, one that Osha's never seen before. But Qimir's always known it was in there. Sol attacks and almost kills Qimir, but Osha stops him. What he's doing isn't the way of the Jedi, and it isn't how Sol trained her to be. Qimir points out to Osha that this is who her master really is, telling Sol he's accepted his own darkness, but what's Sol done with his? So the moth creatures finally arrive after following the light. Osha manages to put Pip on Qimir's back with its light on, which draws them all to him, with them then carrying him off into the trees. Now you'd think he could have force pushed them all away like he did the Jedi, and probably follow up with a quick remark, but never mind, he'll be back. Now Osha's left with questions for Sol, like why can't she trust him, what did he do? Sol emotionally tells Osha he'll explain everything. So at this point there's no 2 ways about it. I think the Jedi likely did some bad stuff on Brendok, but it's also pretty obvious at this point too that Sol had a hand in it. But it's at this point where Osha begins to confront Sol on what he's been hiding. May appears in the distance and then stuns him. We get a reunion with the sisters. but Osha isn't really that into it. May thinks the Jedi have brainwashed her. Osha wants to arrest her for her crimes, but May pleads for Osha to pick her over the Jedi this time around. Now, Osha attempts an arrest only for May to overpower her. She then picks up Yord's lightsaber and cuts off a part of her hair to look like her sister. What she's doing here is swapping places, swapping their clothes over too, so she can go with the Jedi as Osha, whilst the real Osha is left behind with Qimir. Now, considering Qimir wanted to kill May most of this episode, she's pretty much left her sister here for dead. Now, I think May, seeing how powerful her master really was, who she now knows is Qimir, she wants to follow through on their deal by going undercover in the Jedi and wiping them out from within. If she believes her sister's been brainwashed by the Jedi, that gives her that motivation, that reason to take them down once again. Now, Basil's still around sniffing in the forest and spots Qimir walking past in the distance, so his survival will likely be confirmed to the others as well. Sol awakens to May pretending to be Osha, telling him that her sister's gone. I think Sol knows straight away this isn't his old Padawan Osha, but is pretending not to for now. Whilst we see Qimir come across the real Osha disguised as May, still out cold, and he uses the Force to put a little bit of pressure on a wound she's got on her side there, causing her to roll over before he covers her with a blanket. Now, Qimir knew pretty quickly before that it was Osha in his shop that time and not May, so I think he knows now as well. Interestingly, in this moment, we hear a version of Kylo Ren's theme tune play in the background, which also opens up the possibility of Qimir actually being the first Knight of Ren, rather than an actual Sith. Maybe he was trained by the Sith, but maybe he's not one now. Now remember, he said that's what the Jedi would call him. It's not actually what he was. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out from here. Again, another twist I didn't see coming with the twins. Do you think Qimir is actually a Sith or just a dark side Force user that would be called one by the Jedi? As always, drop your thoughts, theories and wildest speculations down in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to catch more of our Star Wars videos. I'll see you in the next one. The Force will be with you always.